Well, to answer that first question, no, we have not seen or heard yet from Haley Stevens. However, at the hotel that we're having this watch party at, as we continue to get those results in for you, you can see a lot of her supporters outside. They're kind of gathered around near a cocktail bar, charcuterie board, and there seems to be a pretty decent energy that's inside the main lobby areas of where we are at tonight. However, when you look at those numbers so far, early going, nearly 20% of the vote is in so far from the Associated Press, and it does show that Haley Stevens' opponent, Abdul El-Sayed, with a near 9% lead over her as those votes continue to come in. But this is what I wanted to talk about. So, of course, I'm not from the Grand Rapids area. I'm from Toledo, down there with WTOL across the border. And I know for Toledoans and Ohioans, we don't have a dog in this particular fight. But I did have a conversation yesterday with a political science professor at the University of Toledo, Dr. Sam Nelson. And we and I just talked about what the implications of this outcome could be if Sayed were to be the winner after tonight. And we talked about not just what it means for November this year, when it would be Mike Rogers and him if that scenario would play out, but what this means for 2028 and what this means for the Democratic Party as a whole. The ideological shift that we could see happen here today. It has been very proven so through at least early polling that a lot of Democrats in Michigan, a key battleground state for anybody that hasn't been paying attention to politics in the last few years, this is a big state for who decides big races in this country. A lot of the Democrats in this state and really across the nation have been seeking a new blue flavor, as I'll kind of describe it. They're tired, seemingly, of the establishment of the traditional Democratic way of campaigning and operating. They wanted something different, it seems, in a lot of the early polling, at least for voters under the age of 50. As I've referenced many times tonight, I've been referencing the Emerson College poll that showed that voters under the age of 50 favored Abdul Sayed by almost more than 40 percentage points, versus when you look at the Stevens campaign, where she has been really had her sweet spot is with the people 60 and over, plus 14 in the latest polling data that I looked at. So all that to say, the conversation I had with the professor at the University of Toledo, if this campaign goes in favor of El-Sayed, what you see is potentially this could set up a brand new landscape in Democrat politics, not just in Michigan, but in other big states. We've talked a lot in the national realm and even locally about the race that was going on in Maine, especially when it was Graham Plattner at the time as the Democratic candidate taking on Senator Susan Collins. But could that spark something different in who comes out in that race? We look at the Texas race with James Tallarico, a Democrat that's trying to flip what has been a very long tradition red state and the Lone Star State in Texas. And it's not just this year's races, but in Ohio, typically a red state. Does a progressive put their name out there for 2028 in any of those races? Does the outcome of this primary mean that kind of sparks something in the Democratic base in Ohio, and that leads to a different governor taking over, going from red to blue? Just those kinds of scenarios that we're yet to see if will be happening after tonight with what happens in this Senate race. However, it is very interesting to watch this race. We're in Toledo. We don't have anything close to Detroit, but to watch this race happen and have such shared economy, shared people, we have 2 counties of our own in our viewing area, and to hear the conversations from Democrats in those counties and saying, that a lot of people are tired of what they've seen in the past, it is just a big revolution. And it was referenced earlier in a conversation amongst the panelists there. Whoever comes out of this race for the Democrats, we are going to fully expect in Michigan a very heavy amount of money poured into television ads, into digital ads, social media advertising, trying to bring in as many young people as they can and spark potentially a new movement of voters to either side of the aisle. But here tonight at the Stevens campaign so far, going back to where I was at the beginning, we have not heard from her yet. We have not seen her yet. None of her supporters are actually down here in front of the stage yet. They're all hanging out in the hotel lobby area. Seems to be an upbeat energy, but as those polling data shows, so far the Stevens campaign playing from behind tonight. So we're going to have to see some of the big counties if they start becoming a stronger hold for her, or if it's more of just a 50-50 split and El-Sayed is able to pull away in some of those smaller counties and really make a big statement tonight in the world of state politics. So that's all I have for you. We'll continue to keep you updated with all the latest information as we have, and as soon as we hear from the Stevens campaign on if and when she'll be speaking, we'll let you know as soon as we can. Back to you guys.
Now, all that knowledge just came from reporter Steve Iwanek. He is with our Toledo sister station, also covering that race for us tonight and providing a lot of insight. We want to go back now to the GOP gubernatorial race. We have 12% of the Associated Press votes counted. John James, 51%. Perry Johnson, 35%. 13 on your sides, Jordan Hatfield is at the Perry Johnson watch party in Troy. And what's the mood there, Jordan?
Well, Juliet, the mood really hasn't seemed to have changed too much since the doors opened here at 7:30. The crowd here still seems pretty cheery, still seems pretty optimistic. They've still been rolling out food. The bar's still open here, so plenty of folks still seem pretty optimistic about the night. Perry Johnson himself still very optimistic about the night. When we spoke to him at 5 o'clock, we still haven't seen him here. We did speak with a member of his team. They said that Johnson will not be coming out until there is a definitive result, which could still be coming in several hours from now. But like I say, John James is currently leading the pack right now in the race, and Perry Johnson is trailing a little bit behind. Perry Johnson still hopes that his outsider stance as a businessman will carry him across the finish line, but still it seems like the gap might be a little too wide here, but we still don't know yet. Only 6% of precincts are reporting right now, but still, moods here still seems pretty optimistic in Troy, Michigan at Perry Johnson's so-called victory party. Now, we'll hopefully hear from Perry Johnson very soon here, but for now, back to you, Juliet.